The rancher saw an Apache woman washing clothes by the river, and noticed her dress was torn to pieces. The morning sun hadn't yet burned the cool from the air when Eli Mercer rode down the narrow trail that cut through Cottonwood Canyon. His horse's hooves thudded softly in the sand, the sound swallowed up by the towering red walls on either side. Eli wasn't headed anywhere in particular, just checking fence lines and making sure rustlers hadn't wandered onto Mercer land again. It was the kind of quiet morning a man could sink into, the kind that held the hush of something waiting. That quiet snapped the moment he rounded the bend and saw her. Down by the river, half hidden by reeds and driftwood, an Apache woman knelt at the water's edge. She was washing a bundle of clothes, pressing them against the rocks, but the thing that froze Eli where he sat was her dress. The buckskin was torn, ripped almost in ribbons, hanging from her shoulders like it had been shredded in a fight. She kept glancing over her shoulder, quick and sharp, like something might leap from the canyon shadows at any second. Eli felt the cold prickle up his spine. He wasn't a man easily startled, but there was something in her eyes even from a distance, something raw, hunted. He nudged his horse forward slowly, raising one hand to show he wasn't reaching for his rifle. "You all right down there?" he called. The woman's head snapped up. For a moment she looked ready to bolt straight into the river, torn clothes and all. But she didn't. She straightened, breathing hard, and stared at Eli like she was measuring the danger he posed. "I mean you no harm," Eli added, keeping his voice low. "Just saw you lookin' troubled." She hesitated, then stood to her full height. She was younger than he first thought, maybe 20, maybe less, but there was a hardness in her posture that came from long seasons of surviving. A slash across her sleeve looked fresh, the edges dark with half-dried blood. "You should leave," she said in accented but clear English. "They might come back." "Who?" Eli asked, tension pulling taut inside him. She only shook her head. "Go." That wasn't the kind of warning a man ignored. Eli scanned the canyon rim, every instinct suddenly alive. The sun glinted off a high ridge. A crow burst from a twisted juniper. Nothing else moved. "Look," he said, sliding down from his saddle, "if someone hurt you." "They tried," she cut in. "But not again." Her hands trembled just slightly. Eli saw now the bruises blooming along her arm. "You're hurt," he said. "You need help." "What I need," she answered sharply, "is a way out of this place before they find my tracks." Eli's mind worked fast. Outlaws. A violent encounter with another tribe. Settler men. Whoever had shredded her dress hadn't been doing anything decent. Just then, a single sound knifed through the canyon, the faint clatter of loose stone tumbling from above. The woman's eyes widened. "Too late," she whispered. Eli's hand dropped to his revolver as he rushed to the cover of a boulder. The woman crouched low behind a log. Silence hung heavy, thick as wool, before three silhouettes appeared on the ridge. Men, armed and slow-moving, scanning the canyon floor like wolves on a scent. Eli swore under his breath. "You know them." "Yes," she said. "They want me alive, not safe." He understood more than she said. One of the men knelt, rifle slung casually over his shoulder. His voice drifted down. "Saw tracks lead in this way. Girl can't be far." Eli's pulse kicked hard. Those weren't ranch hands. They weren't lawmen. These were the kind who made their money in ways a man didn't speak about in church. He leaned toward her. "What's your name?" She hesitated. "Nanton Losa." "All right, miss." "Nanton," Eli said, keeping his voice firm. "You stay low. I'll handle the greetin'. You will die." "Maybe," he said with a crooked grin, "but I'd prefer not to." He stepped out from behind the boulder, revolver down by his leg but ready. "Mornin', boys," he called, his voice echoing up the rock face. "You're awful far from town." The men stiffened. "Who the hell are you?" "Eli Mercer," he replied. "This here canyon's part of my range. You're trespassing." The leader spat over the ridge. "We're looking for something that belongs to us." "There's the trouble," Eli said dryly. "People ain't things." A long silence stretched. The men exchanged glances. One lifted his rifle. Eli fired first. The crack split the canyon, a bright spark of gunpowder smoke. The man jerked back, rifle flying from his hands. The others dove for cover. "Run," Eli shouted to Nanton Losa. But she didn't. Instead she grabbed the bundle of wet clothes, slung it over her shoulder, and darted toward his horse. Shots rained down like hail. Dust jumped at their feet. Eli sprinted after her, grabbing the reins as she scrambled onto the saddle. He swung up behind her, spurred the horse hard, and they shot down the canyon trail like lightning. The gunmen scrambled to the ridge edge, firing wildly. Bullets sang through the air, one grazing Eli's hat clean off his head. The horse tore across the sandy flats, nostrils flaring, muscles bunching with every desperate stride. Only when the canyon walls fell away behind them did Eli risk looking back. The men hadn't followed, but that didn't mean they wouldn't. Nanton Losa was gripping the saddle horn so tight her knuckles had gone white. "You all right?" Eli asked. She nodded stiffly. "They'll come again. Not if we reach the ranch first," he said. "Your ranch will not be safe," she replied. "Those men follow trails like coyotes." Eli exhaled. She wasn't wrong. But the nearest town was a half-day away, and she wouldn't last that long injured and hunted. The ranch was the only chance they had. When they reached the Mercer homestead, the sun was sinking low, brushing the world in copper and crimson. Eli brought the horse to a halt by the barn, helping her down carefully. His younger brother, Isaac, stepped out carrying a sack of feed. "Who's this?" he asked, brow raised. "Trouble's on her heels," Eli answered bluntly. "And ours if we don't think fast." Inside the house, Eli brought Nanton Losa water and a blanket. She sat close to the wall, still alert, still braced for danger. Isaac watched from the doorway, curiosity etched across his face. What did they want with her? Isaac whispered. "She didn't say," Eli replied. "And I didn't ask." Nanton Losa looked at them both. "I was taken," she said quietly, "by 3 men who trade stolen women to miners in the mountains. I escaped last night when they slept. They ruined my clothing so I could not walk far or fight well. I ran to the river." Isaac's face twisted. "Damn devils. They will come," she said simply. Eli nodded. "Let 'em. They'll find a fight." But later that night, long after the lamps had been turned low and the crickets filled the dark with their steady hum, a distant whistle carried through the valley. Not a bird. Not the wind. A signal. Nanton Losa stiffened where she sat on the floor, blanket wrapped around her shoulders. "They are here." Eli grabbed his rifle. Isaac raised the shotgun. Together they moved to the porch, shadows stretching long across the dirt. 3 figures stood at the fence line, half lit by moonlight. The leader stepped forward. "Mercer, we ain't looking for a quarrel bigger than it needs to be. Hand over the girl and we leave quiet." Eli answered without hesitation. "You turn around and ride, or you leave in pine boxes." The man laughed. "Brave talk for a rancher playin' hero." Eli fired. Chaos erupted. The men dove behind barrels, firing back. The thunder of gunshots cracked across the valley. Isaac returned fire from the porch rail. Nanton Losa crawled to the window, peeking through the lantern glow. "They're splitting," she said urgently. 2 on the right, 1 circling left. Eli cursed, ducking behind a post as bullets splintered the wood. "Isaac, cover the right." He bolted for the barn, boots pounding. The shadows shifted, one of the gunmen rushing him in the dark. Eli swung his rifle like a club, knocking the man backward. They grappled in the dirt, rolling, fists flying. The outlaw pulled a knife, gleaming cruel in the moonlight. "Eli!" Nanton Losa cried. She darted from the house despite the danger, grabbing a fallen board from beside the porch. Without hesitation she swung hard, striking the attacker across the skull. He dropped like a felled tree. Eli stared at her, breathing hard. "You didn't need to." "Yes," she said. "I did." 2 shots cracked from near the corral, Isaac shouting something indistinct. Eli ran toward the sound, Nanton Losa following close despite her injuries. They found Isaac pressing himself behind a trough while the last 2 men advanced, one reloading, the other grinning like the fight was already won. Eli raised his rifle, but one outlaw spotted the motion and fired. The bullet slammed into the trough inches from Eli's head. He ducked, heart hammering. Then Nanton Losa stepped out into full view, holding the attacker's dropped knife. "Hey!" she shouted. Both men turned. Eli didn't waste the opening. 2 shots rang out, sharp, final. The outlaws staggered, then hit the ground hard. Silence fell over the ranch, the kind that rang like a struck bell after so much noise. Isaac lowered his shotgun slowly. Is that all of them?" Nanton Losa stared at the fallen bodies, chest rising and falling fast. Eli touched her shoulder gently. "You're safe now," he said. She didn't answer right away. Finally, she breathed out. "You risked your lives for me." Eli shook his head. No one deserves what they meant to do. And no one deserves to be hunted for escaping it. For the first time since he'd met her, some of the hardness in her expression softened. The night felt different, calmer, as though the valley itself exhaled with them. Over the next days, she regained strength. Eli repaired her torn dress as best he could, his stitches uneven but earnest. She smiled at the clumsy threadwork, telling him it would hold well enough until she could make her own. When she finally gathered her belongings, ready to return to her people, the morning felt too still. "You're sure you want to go alone?" Eli asked. "I must," she said. "But I will remember what you did. You saw a woman in the river and did not turn away." He nodded slowly. "If you ever need help again, this ranch is open to you." She looked at him, eyes deep and steady. "And if you ever need a friend among the Apache, follow the river south until you see the White Cliffs. Ask for Nantan Losa. They will bring you to me." With that, she walked into the golden morning, the sun catching the mended cloth of her dress, glowing like a promise instead of a scar. Eli watched until she disappeared beyond the cottonwoods, the echo of danger finally quiet, replaced by something he couldn't yet name. Something fierce, something hopeful, something that would stay with him long after the tracks in the dust had faded.